Hi guys, my name is Mayana and today I'm going to be doing my February wrap up. So in February I read a total of 43 books. I did not plan this. I never really plan to read a lot. I really don't know how it ended up happening. I really didn't plan to read that many originally, but I wanted to read a lot of black authors, and every time I read like a white author I felt guilty, so I had to read like 3 more black authors. So because of Black History Month, I'm going to talk about those. So I'm going to get into stats a little bit. So recently in February I started calculating all of the physical books that I own that I want to read. I had started with the total of 309 books, and so I want to get that in half by the end of this year, which would be like 150. I have to read like 15 books a month, which I don't know if I can do, but we're gonna try. With that being said, I only read I think 4 or 5 physicals, so I got it down from 309 to 306. I read 24 black authors because of my guilt. I read a total of 11,984 pages. I had 2 1-stars, 7 2-stars, 2 2.5 stars, 19 3-stars, 6 3.5 stars, 5 4-stars, and 1 5-star. So overall it was a pretty okay month. I felt like really bad because a lot of the books that I were reading were just okay. Like I don't know, I just wanted to find books that I loved and I really didn't, but it's okay because I had an okay reading month. I just feel bad that I had an okay reading month because I want to have an amazing reading month, but not every day of the year is gonna be an amazing reading month, so it's not that big of a deal. Okay, so I started off the month with a black author. That's how I want to start off the month. So I started off, I read Clayton. Sorry, Clayton, or is it Chayton? One of those. So this is, like I said, it's by a black author. This is a paranormal romance. I kind of got into paranormal romance this month. It is about this guy who is a werewolf, and his mate ends up like not wanting to like mate with him, I think, and he has a chance to become an alpha, but he really doesn't want to take it. And then until his mate like they have a baby, and their baby is like threatened, so he has no choice. And then the main character comes along, who's a black woman, and they end up falling in love. I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was okay. So then I read Keepsake, which is also 3 stars. This is written by a Latina author. This is like an age gap, which let's talk about, like, I hate the term like age gap trope. Like, I hate the fact that age gap is a trope because I feel like 2 people being 2 separate ages shouldn't really be a trope, because it's like, who cares, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're just different ages. Like, there's no situation there. The situation is that they're 2 ages. It's like, I really don't care about character ages as long as they're like, you know, legal and like not weird. But yeah, so basically this is, so her best friend ends up dying, and she has a number of kids. I think it was like 3 or something. And so she ends up having to, because she's a godparent, she ends up having to take care of these kids with this guy who's the love interest. I thought it was okay. He had a pierced, you know what, and I thought that was very interesting. The spicy scenes were hot. Like, there's a scene where she like walked in on him like working, no, I think he was like pleasing himself or whatever in the gym, which I thought was weird because y'all live in a house full of kids, but I think the kids weren't there at the moment, like whatever. I feel like when you're doing that kind of stuff, like no matter where you are, even if the kids aren't home, you should really be careful with that, because nobody wants to be traumatized with that. But that's neither here nor there. Yeah, so I thought it was like really hot, but like I don't know, like everybody else really loved it. I just thought it was like okay, as I do everything. So then I read Lonely Castle in the Mirror, and this is a fantasy book. This is about this girl who ends up finding this castle, and you can enter to it through a mirror, and like it has like this set of things that you need to do to find, and I think it's like keys. And then once you like find the key, like you can have a wish, but it's like a bunch of other kids from all over the world are also in, like they also go to it. And I just thought it was okay, but that's more so because I'm just not really into YA, and I really need to stop reading books just because they sound interesting, even though I know I don't really like that genre. It's a terrible habit that I have, just because I'm very curious and I want to read it, and I end up like not loving it as much as everybody else, and then I end up feeling bad because I didn't love it as much as everybody else. But whatever. And then I reread The Six Deaths of the Saint because I just didn't understand why everybody else loved about it. I read it last month. I gave it 3 stars. I ended up giving it 3 stars this read. Like, everyone loves this book. They're absolutely obsessed with it, and I just don't understand. So I read it physically because I'm like, okay, well, maybe I just didn't connect with it, like, through audio. No, it's not for me. I don't hate it or anything. I think it's an okay book, but it's just not a fave for me, and that's okay. Sometimes you don't love things that everybody else loves, and that's okay. And I have to learn that. So yeah, I really hope this lighting isn't bad. I never really filmed during the daytime. Then I read The Deep, which is about like black mermaids by River Solomon. I just thought it was like super boring. Whenever it's like, it sucks because it's like I want to read Black Mermaid so bad, but the 2 Black Mermaid books I've read so far have not been that great to me because they are not what I'm expecting, and maybe that's the issue. And now I did like this. I listened to the audiobook because I didn't realize that I didn't like it. I thought it was an okay book until David Diggs. I'm not a Hamilton girl, so don't think I'm a Hamilton girl because I know who that is, because yeah. But like, he did like an outro or was intro, and I realized like he was just talking, and I just realized that like I was more interested in what he had to say than like the story itself. And that's when I was like, you don't like this book, Diana. So yeah, it just wasn't for me, and I really hate that. But yeah, then I read The Tyrant Alpha's Rejected Mate, and originally I gave this 3 stars, but then I changed to 4 stars. So I read this one because of Naima, and okay when back in my Wattpad days, I talk about these all the time. I love my Wattpad days. I miss them bad. So back in my Wattpad days, I used to love like mates. I used to love like werewolf stories. I didn't read a lot of them, but the one trope I read a lot was when the werewolf, like the alpha, would reject his mate. I loved it. It's probably something like deeper I need to psychologically analyze, probably because like I grew up rejected a lot. So like my favorite thing about that trope on the Wattpad stories is like they would get rejected and then they would get all hot or whatever. Usually it was like Megan Fox rejecting like they would be like the fan cast, like rejecting Megan Fox is insane, whatever. Anyways, it's not one. So she would get like rejected, so then she would like move away, or she would like find a different pack or something, but she would go away and she would become hot, and then she would come back into his life, and then he would want her. Which, now that I said it out loud, that's very questionable. Like I said, a lot to unpack there. But I read this because I missed that trope. I know it wouldn't give like Wattpad, but it did pretty much decently. So this one is also like the main character is disabled, which I read a few disabled books this month, and I'm actually really happy for that because that is something that I've been lacking in my reading, and I wasn't even aware of it until I read this book. So I am really happy that I read this. So yeah, the main character, she has a broken leg, and basically like, so she's seen as defective to like the entire like pack. So yeah, she's seen defective into like the entire pack, so everyone like just treats her like trash. And so one day she ends up finding out that she is the alpha's mate, and he ends up being like, girl, no you're not. So he ends up like rejecting her, and she ends up going into the woods and finding this witch, and she ends up like, the witch ends up making them not like mates with magic, except so she doesn't see him in a certain way, but he will still see her in a certain way. So then like, it just served. Like, he was just like so protective of her. It was good. It was good. I gave it 3 stars at first because I was like I don't want people to like go and read this book and then be like, oh man, I gave this 4 stars, I'm gonna read it, and then they hate it. But it's like, I'm sorry, I loved it actually. Like, I'm just now getting into like the like Omegaverse stuff, so I get kind of like embarrassed about it, but at the same time, like, who cares? Like, I have fun reading this, which I cannot say about a lot of other books that I read. So why be embarrassed when I had fun? So then I read, finally I can hold up a physical book. So then I read The Bones of Ruins, which I highly recommend. I talked about this in a reading vlog. I talked about this in the Black Romantic-a-thon reading vlog. So if you want more in-depth thoughts, I would highly recommend checking that out. But this one is about this girl. She's a tightroper, and she also cannot die. So she ends up coming across these like group of other people who also like have like their own special powers and are like X-Men, and they're working, she's working to help like one of the guys specifically because he knows about her life and more than she knows. So I thought this was like really interesting. I'm glad that I finally read this. I read this one because of Heather from Alrighty Aphrodite. She talked about this one, and I've had this one for a long time, and I didn't read it because it was YA, and as you guys know, I don't really love YA all that much, and so I was like, I was scared I was gonna hate it, but Heather kept talking about it, so I was like, I'm gonna read this. This one actually didn't really read like YA, which I really liked about it. The main character does have like 4 people in love with her, so if you don't like that, I would say skip this one. Personally, I think it's very realistic for a black girl to have 4 guys in love with her. That's just me. So then I read Holding Back the Years, which is like this like hookup to lovers trope. I gave it 3 stars. It was set in Michigan, actually. It was set actually very close to me, so that was fun. It was by a black author, of course, but I didn't really love it. I thought that the dialogue was a bit cringy, and like I said, I don't really like friends to lovers. I discovered this month. Not friends to lovers, well, I don't like that either, but I don't like friends with benefits to lovers, or like when people hook up. Like, I really like fun tropes. I really like maybe if the characters don't like each other, or like, I don't know, like this book, even without like the friends with benefits to lovers, this book really didn't have any like fun tropes, so wasn't really for me. Then I read Gatekeeper, which I gave 2 stars. It's basically Harry Potter meets Wednesday Addams fan fiction. It's about like this college, and this girl ends up going there, and just picture this if like Voldemort was hot. I mean, Tom Riddle, but like just picture if like Voldemort was like hot and young. It falls in love with the college student because it takes place in a college. But yeah, I just thought it was cringy. I thought the tarot was terrible. I posted about it, and like the people who like this book like ate me up because I posted, I was like, I hate when authors write like tarot card readings and they use the death card to signify that someone's gonna die or whatever, because that's not what the death card means. And if you really want to scare someone, if you're writing about tarot cards, you want to put like the Tower. Oh my gosh, whenever I do tarot card readings and I pull the Tower out, I put the deck up and I cry for a little bit because that card is so fucking scary. Like, the death card really just signifies like change, transformation. Like, it's actually one of my favorite tarot cards, but I hate in books when people like use the death card to signify like someone's gonna die or whatever. I hate it. Or like to spook people, and like that's kind of how it was used in the book, and like I personally didn't like that. But apparently the author does tarot card readings. I searched her Instagram, I didn't see it, but I'm not a fan, so what the fuck do I know? Still didn't like the book. So now I read The Gatekeeper. So the next few books I read on the vlog. So I read The Gatekeeper. I gave it 3 stars. This is about this girl who ends up coming across like this god. It's like an interracial relationship, but he's like he's Polynesian, I think, or I'm sorry, I cannot remember, but he's not white. And so he is like a god. I keep thinking like, think Moana. Yeah, think that. Like, she ends up like stumbling across him, and it was fine. It was just like, it wasn't even friends to lovers, it was like strangers to lovers. I don't like that trope, but I thought it was fine. Then I read Adrian. I think this is the same author or not. I read Adrian. This one was short. This one had pictures in it, and even though it said illustrations, it didn't click in my brain that this had illustrations. So when I start the book, there's like this scene where he's like pleasing himself in her room thinking about her, because she is marrying his dad, so it's like an age gap, like forbidden romance type of thing, and so he's pleasing himself in her room. And I flipped the page and there's a picture of it. I gasped, I screamed, I was so thrown off. I was not expecting it. Even though it said illustration, I've never read like an illustrated like romance book before, so that was crazy. Like, the illustrations are good. Like, I recommend it. This is like a high 3-star, like a 3.5, maybe even a 4. But yeah, so it's about them and like her marrying his dad, but he's in love with her, and then there's this plot twist that happens at the end, and then the dad literally calls the main character an N-word, and I was just like, or no, it was either an N-word or he called her like a black bee, or it was like something like really crazy. I'm like, wow, this is the man you were gonna marry? That's insane. And then I read Happily Ever Afters, which I gave 3 stars. This is a white contemporary book. I thought this was fine. I just thought that the main character really needed therapy. I thought that if you want to hear more about my thoughts, you can watch my Black Romantic-a-thon vlog. But in short, basically, this is about this girl who is a writer, and she's going to like this school, and it's like a new school, and she ends up like having a so she's struggling with like being a writer and being at this school and not feeling good enough, but also like having a crush on one of the guys who has a girlfriend. And I just thought that the main character needed therapy. I thought that she was very insecure, and it was like really frustrating reading from her perspective. And like, it's fine to be insecure, but the things that she was insecure about was very frustrating. Like, my pet peeve is when someone does not say something, like someone says something and then a person assumes what they meant by that. And it's like, if someone does not say what they mean by that, don't assume what they're gonna say. Like, I hate that, like when people assume, even though, like, I don't know, like if it's like it was never said, why assume it, you know? So that really irked me. She did it a lot, and I just feel like she needed therapy. She needed therapy. And then I have a vlog reading this where I read popular books from 2014. I'll be doing another one this month, hopefully I have the energy too, but I'm really excited for the one I'm doing this month. So I read We Were Liars, The Winner's Curse, and Cruel Beauty. So We Were Liars, I gave 1 star. It was absolutely terrible. I thought it was like really boring. The plot twist I actually accidentally guessed like very early on, because I've seen enough Lifetime movies to know what it is when I see it. The Winner's Curse, I gave 1 star. I thought it was like very racist. I knew it was about slaves, but the way that, like, I knew it was like a slave master trope, but the way that everyone loved it, I didn't think it was going to be as weird as it was. But that's what I get for trusting white people. And then I read Cruel Beauty, which is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. And I'm not really a fan of Beauty and the Beast retellings. I think they're played out. I think authors are beating a dead horse with the Beauty and the Beast retelling, but this is like very early on. Like, this is like one of the first, in my opinion, one of the first few, like along with like Sarah J Maas. But so like this one I actually found like really good, and I actually really enjoyed it, so I gave this one 4 stars. And then I found this mafia romance series written by all Black authors, and it's called Savage Bloodline. So overall I gave the series like a 3.5 stars. I read a few of them. I'll tell you which one I recommend. But basically so this is about like a family. I forget what their last names are, but it's about like a family, and it's like a huge family. So they have some people in Italy, some people in like the US, and it's just like about them like falling in love or whatever. But the thing is like a lot of them start to read the same towards the end. Like a lot of them like how like the girl become kidnapped by someone. Way too many of them like how like ex-girlfriends, and the main character got kidnapped by the ex-girlfriends. Other than that, I thought these were fine. So yeah, the family's last name is DeLuca. So the ones that I read were Alessandro DeLuca, Gianni DeLuca, Corso DeLuca, Emilia DeLuca, Mason, who was like a bodyguard, he's not even a part of the family, Sebastian DeLuca, which was my favorite, Paolo DeLuca, and Anzo DeLuca, which I gave that one 3.5 stars. But I just feel like I needed them to be a little bit more slow burn. Like I feel like all of them happened like a little bit too fast. And what I feel like these little short, because they were all short, they're all like 100 pages. Like you could literally read them in like a day. You read a couple of them a day. That's actually how I ended up reading so many books this month. So I just feel like they were a little bit too short, and they were very slow burn. So then I ended up reading a motorcycle game series that is also very similar. Every book except the first one is written by a Black author, and they all, I think except the first one, have like, you know, Black main characters. So this one, so the series is called Sin City Motorcycle Gang. So I only read 3 of them. So I read Aries, Caliber, and Grimm. And like I said, I just feel like sometimes the dialogue was absolutely terrible in some of these, but I don't know, I just thought they were fine. I just feel like there's not enough slow burns in these stories. Like I don't know what I expect, but there's just not enough slow burn for me. So overall I gave this series like a 3 star. And then I read Galatea, which I gave no rating, because I actually don't have any feelings about it. It was like literally 27 pages by Madeline. Like I have nothing to say about it. Like it was 20 pages. There was nothing to say. So then I read And then I read The Secret Circle, which you can read more of this on a vlog that I did where I read books of canceled TV shows that I loved. So I also watched the first episode, which was like so nostalgic for me. So the first book is, I gave 1 star, second book 2 stars, and the third book 3 stars. They read very similar to the books. There's a few changes, so it's like really fun like reading what was changed. I also found out, because this author also wrote the Vampire Diaries, so I also found out that the author basically, like the company that she published the book over basically took away her rights to finish the story and like gave it to someone else, and the person who wrote it like completely like ruined the series according to like fans. Same with like the Vampire Diaries. Like the person who wrote it was just absolutely terrible. Fun fact. So then I started reading another series. So I started reading the Dark Hunterverse by Sherilyn Kenyon. So I had this book because a lot of people said that this reads like the Shadowhunter Chronicles but adult, because the author actually tried to sue Cassandra Clare for stealing her idea. But I hate to say it, I read the series myself. There are no similarities here. These just take place in the paranormal universe. So I read, at first I started to read them on the order. So I read like 1, 2, 3, and then I just skipped forward and I read like 5, and then I read, because I really want to read Archeron, whatever. I want to read Archeron because that's the one everybody loves. So I really want to read that one. So actually, let me hold up the book. So I have Night Pleasures, which like technically this is the first book, but technically this is the second book. So, but yeah, you can go on her website. You can go on her website and find out how to read them in order. I only read all of these in order because everyone was like, oh, well, to make it better for Archeron, but I really don't think so. I think so. Like, yeah, I thought that this one specifically. So my camera overheated, so I don't remember what I was talking about, but so yeah, I really like the series, but unfortunately this is so fucking bright. It don't need to be that bright, honestly. I'm so sorry. But unfortunately my issue with the series is that all of the romances read the exact same and none of the tropes are fun. But I find the world extremely interesting. Like basically they're all like the Greek god and goddesses play a big part in this, and so like it's like a vampire whatever. And so like they have dark hunters are like vampire hunters, and like I don't know, so Greek mythology plays a huge part in this. Like gods and goddesses play a huge part in this. Like actually Acheron's book, he actually is involved with Artemis, which I found very interesting. And I love when books depict Greek gods and goddesses accurately. It's like very fucking terrible. I love that, and like that's what that did. That book was like very heart wrenching, like the first 300, like the first few hundred pages, but unfortunately like, it felt like reading 2 books in one, which was fine. But once we got to like where he found his real love interest, I lost interest in the book because like they all read the same. Like there's no fun tropes. Like they literally just meet and then they hook up and then they're in love and then the plot of the book. And it's like there's nothing. I want maybe some enemies to lovers, or maybe they take a little while to get together. I don't know. Like they all read literally the exact same, and that is my only issue with all of them. But I don't read them for the romance. Like, I find the plots of these books like so interesting. So then I read Prince of Brotherhood, which is a black mafia story, and I gave it 3 stars. This one is about this guy who's like on this vacation, and he ends up coming across this really beautiful girl, and they end up hooking up, and then like a bunch of like secrets are revealed from there. Like there's like a bunch of secrets. Like I can't really tell too much about the plot because it will give away a lot of things, but everything's not what it seemed. But I just thought it was okay. Like there was no fun tropes. Like where are the fun tropes in these books? Like where are the fun tropes? So then I read Hefty, which I also gave 3 stars, maybe like a high, like maybe like 3.5 stars. This one is about a plus size male heroine, which I really loved reading about. This is about this girl. She's a cheerleader and he's a football player, and he is her best friend's brother. So I love that trope, and it's basically like them like being in love with each other and having to like keep it a secret, and she wants to hook up with him, and he's like in love with her. And I just like, the only thing that irritated me was like the miscommunication trope. Like I hate that trope so bad. Or like, it's not even miscommunication, it's the assumption trope. That's what I'm gonna call it. It's like basically when you assume something about someone, like when they don't say something and then you assume something about them. I hate that so much, and that was like all throughout this book. But it's like 60, it was like 80 pages. Like Jessica King writes very, very short, slinty books, so I'll be checking her out because they're very short, but it felt super long, if that makes sense. Like it felt better, like it was really good. It was like better than like a lot of the full-length novels I read, but the assumption trope just really pissed me off. Then I read Can't Black My Love, which is another black author. This is a hockey romance series, and the dialogue was just atrocious and offensive. Like literally the first chapter was offensive, but like I feel like that was the point of the main character, so I really didn't, you know, take it to heart like that. But basically it's about this guy. He is like very rich and he's on the hockey team and he just thinks he's so much better than everyone else, until this video goes viral of him saying something about the dean's daughter, and so he has to do community service in order to be on the team because his coach is going to put him on. So he ends up coming across the main character and he like gets her to fake sign it, and yeah, he gets her to like fake sign it, and then his coach like kind of puts him off the team because it was fake, and so he actually like has to like do community service, and he ends up finding out that they used to be childhood best friends. And yeah, I just thought that the dialogue was just very corny. Like I am so sorry, like that was my issue with a lot of the books that I read this month. I feel like the dialogue was just absolutely fucking terrible, and like even with that I still kind of enjoyed it, but I could not get over like how corny it was. I just could not. And then I read Finley, Donovan, Jumpstone, which I gave 4 stars. I started to do a vlog on this. I started to do like my February anticipated releases, but the other book ended up being a DNF, and I just decided I don't want to do it for February. I just didn't have enough books. Like February was very short, not enough books came out in February. Same for March, but I feel like I'm more hopeful for March. I'm gonna try to do March. But yeah, so this one, it follows Finley Donovan, and she basically gets involved, like she ends up going into like the police academy because she owes the guy from the last book for not doing something she was supposed to do in the last book. So she ends up involving in the police academy to find out something for him, and so it's basically about that one. I like this one a lot more than the last one, but I still didn't absolutely love it. I just feel like the series at a certain point becomes like a bit unrealistic, and like it's a book, so it really doesn't need to be all that realistic, but it was still unrealistic. Okay, and then I read The Magicians. Don't mind my copy is like, you know. So The Magicians is like one of my favorite TV shows, but I realized that I never finished it. Like I never got past season 2. I realized that, and I'm like, right now, like I tell people all the time this is my favorite TV show, and I never made it past season 2. I did not know that. I thinking I made it to the end. I don't know what the fuck I was watching. But so I read this one because me and my sister are rewatching The Magician so that I could finish it, and so I read this one because I just wanted to see, like, you know, what was the difference. A lot of people didn't like this book. Like it has like very low ratings. A lot of people did not like this book. I thought it was fine. It was really fun reading the book. Like the book and the TV show are actually very similar. I love the TV show. I love how weird it is. I love like the friendships, the found family, the characters. Margot and Elliot are like my favorite characters. Like I love them. I love, like, I don't know, the show is just so weird. Like everything about the show. I love Fillory. Like I don't know, I just love the show. And I love that like there's a magical school, but there's also a fantasy world, and I just love everything about it. And so I wanted to see like if there were any differences, and there actually really isn't a lot of differences. A difference that like I do want to note though is that in this book there's a character named Janet, and there isn't a character named Janet in the show. And I think they did it because, so Janet is Margot basically, so I think they changed the name because in the book there's also a character named Jane. And oh, I gotta tell you what it is about. Okay, so this is like, it's supposed to be like Harry Potter meets, I don't know, but personally I think it's Chronicles of Narnia meets Alice in Wonderland. So it's about the main character named Quentin, and he ends up getting into this magical school because he's trying to go to like Harvard or some shit, and he's obsessed with these books called Fillory and Further, which are basically like Harry Potter No, they're not. They're like Chronicles of Narnia to me. The books are like Chronicles of Narnia. So yeah, he's obsessed with that series, even though he's a grown ass man. But whatever. So he's supposed to go to like Yale or something, but he ends up going to take this test. He ends up taking this magic test, and so he ends up being immediately submitted into like this magic school because he passes his test. And so I guess that's where Harry Potter comes in. Not really. I'm telling you, everyone's comparing this book to Harry Potter. It does not. Just because something has magic does not mean that it's like Harry Potter. Like, I'm so sorry. Even like with like the whole villain, like, I'm sorry, it literally gives like Alice in Wonderland and Chronicles of Narnia. So yeah, so he ends up like getting permitted into this school, and then like there is this thing called the Beast that ends up coming in and like killing one of his teachers. Like, he freezes everyone. Ugh, such a great show. It's just like so great. So he freezes everyone. He's like killing a teacher. He ends up like almost killing everyone there. He ends up blinding their dean, which Dean is like one of my favorite characters in like the series. And so they end up finding out that Fillory is a real place, and so they have to go on like a bunch of things to like really try and stop this beast from like killing everyone. And it just, I don't know, it just was like so good. And I just love how weird it is. I love Fillory. I love how it like it's in the books. Like, I do think that Quentin, the main character, is a bit too old. Like, he's like 17 at the start of the book. His grown ass should not be this obsessed with him filling her further books. So I'm thinking about like the Harry Potter. If I was his age and I met a guy and he was this obsessed with Fiddler and Further, I would run the other way. Like, I can see, I don't know, I just feel like that was the only thing that like really gets on my nerves. And like in the show, it's still annoying or weird, but it's not like too much. And then also Quentin, like, I don't know, I think Quentin's character, like, I know a lot of people don't like Quentin's character. He's very much an incel, and so it's in the show, like, he's the same character in the show. The only thing is just that he ends up having a lot of character development once the focus isn't on him in a TV show. But anyway, so what I liked is that there's a character named Janet in here, and in the show her name ended up being changed to Margot, and I'm pretty sure it's because there's a character named Jane already in the book, and she's like in the Fillory and Further books, but it's a whole thing. So there's already a character named Jane, and then there's a character named Josh, which Josh had a bigger role in the books than he does in the TV show. Like, he ends up becoming an important character like later on in the series, but in this book he had like a bigger like role. And so anyways, I'm pretty sure they changed her name because Janet and Jane were too similar and people would get confused. Because the only reason why I didn't get confused is because I realized that Janet was supposed to be Margot, so in my head I would say Margot. But the cool thing was during season 4, they all like have like their identities, like their memories wiped of this thing that happens, and they end up like becoming like different people. Like, so in the TV show, like, we see them as like their same character, but then they have like other actors who, like, to everyone else in the world they're somebody else. And so in season 4 her name is Janet, and I thought it was like really fun because in the books her name was Janet, so I thought it was like a cute little thing that they did. I don't know, I guess it wasn't really that serious, but I loved it. I thought it was cute because I love Margot. So yeah, I gave this one 3 stars. I'm gonna be finishing the series because it was just really fun. I need a new copy because my cat spilled water all over it, and it has like a map of Fillory, and I love weird things. I love how weird the world is. I just think I like the show a little bit more than the book, but I might like the second and third books more than I like the first book, which is what I'm hoping. So then lastly, I read my only 5-star book this month, and that is Act Your Age, Eve Brown. I really love this one. This one is about Eve Brown, who is the youngest Brown sister, and she's just like very like irresponsible. She can't hold a job. She's just like crazy. She's the crazy sister, and so her parents cut her off, very similar like what happened one summer, but I think this book did it better. She ends up going to find this B&B in this world, not world, sorry, reading too many fantasy books, in this town, which the author Tilly Hibbert is going to be writing a book based off this town, and I'm very excited about that because I like the town. It has small town vibes. So she ends up going to like work in this B&B. Well, she ends up like going to stop at this B&B. She ends up looking for a job there. Then she ends up running over the main male of interest. His name is Jacob. She ends up running him over, and so she ends up getting a job there, and it's about like their romance, and it was just like really cute. Jacob has autism, Yeah, so I really like this series. Like I really like when Talia Hibbert writes because she always includes like a lot more diversity and disability than like other authors I've read. So I really love that. But I really just loved Jacob. Like they had like a hate to love. Like they had like really good banter, which I loved. I thought they like the way that they like, you know, joked off each other was very funny. And I thought that Jacob was a whore. I love him. Like I need me a Jacob. Like he's like very nerdy, but like, ugh, there's this one scene that is just insanely amazing. Like it was just crazy. It was like one of their first like scenes like intimately together. It was just really good. Like I really love this book. And like when I first was reading this series, like when this book, like the series was first coming out, I really did not think it could get any better than Danny Brown. Like people are like, oh yeah, Eve Brown's my favorite, Eve Brown's my favorite. I really just was like, okay, whatever, y'all. No, Eve Brown is literally my favorite. Like I love Danny Brown, but Eve Brown is literally my favorite. Like I love her. It has small town vibes. Like it was just like, ugh, it was just amazing and I loved it. So yeah, that is it for this video. Also, quick question, I have a video of me getting ready to go to the bookstore, but I never filmed the bookstore part because I got really nervous and there was like too many people there, so I never filmed it. But if you want the just get ready with me, please let me know so that I can like upload it and film it, because I don't know, I'm still gonna like edit the video or whatever, and if you guys want it then I'll give it to you. So yeah, that is it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in my next one.